those are all what-if scenarios. Producing printed reports, you can use graphs and all sorts of formatting to make the report look nice. Charts. In addition, this course introduces 3D cell referencing. It's really just referring cells from different sheets. It's technical stuff. Various advanced tool lookup and financial functions, data filtering, querying techniques, and so on and so forth. I will tell you, word processing is useful for wordy stuff. This is useful for anything that requires calculation. In the world of businesses, these two tools are basically it's as fundamental as pencils, pens, and erasers. Are there any questions about what an electronic spreadsheet is and potentially what it can do for you? No questions? Okay. All right, so coming back to here, I'm just going to kind of equate a spreadsheet as a super duper graphic calculator which has a lot of memory. Okay, because that really is what it is. Okay, it's really useful. I don't use a calculator anymore. I don't use a calculator that is standalone. I don't use a calculator that is on the computer. I just use a spreadsheet to do all my calculations. Because with a spreadsheet to do all my calculations, guess what? I can save it. If I do it on a calculator, either a handheld or a calculator using the computer, I cannot save the calculations. I cannot redo everything by saying, oh, what if I changed that variable that was 20 steps ago? I can't do that with a calculator. But with a spreadsheet, as long as I use the cells correctly and refer everything to the other one, I can go all the way back and say, okay, let's change that one assumption. And then bam, one change of one value of one cell, everything updates, and I can see the end result automatically. And I can save the document, so I can say, okay, tomorrow I will play with different scenario, and I don't have any problems with doing it. Yep.
You got the row sheet.
Oh, that's right, row sheet. There you go. That's one thing a spreadsheet cannot do, is to remind me to take row. Now, once I take row, I can use a spreadsheet to help organize, like who has missed so many classes and so on and so forth. All right. So these two, with word processing and the spreadsheet, I think everybody should know how to use those. Okay. The next type is called a drawing application. A drawing application is nothing more than what the name implies. It allows you to draw diagrams, pictures, and stuff like that. In the business environment, a drawing application can be used to create org charts. Okay, so who is the boss, who is the supervisors, and so on and so forth. You can use it to create certificates, which we do, here on campus. You can create company logos if you want to. You can spend some time and actually use these programs to do a lot of things. It is important to remember that a drawing application is not the same as a photo editing application. How many people know what is Paint in Windows? It's prepackaged in Windows. That's a photo editing application. You can use it to draw something, but it's pixelated. In other words, your picture has a limitation of how many pixels by how many pixels. What happens when you try to blow it up like 200 times? You see bigger pixels, right? Okay, it doesn't look very good. With a drawing application, it's different. When you draw a circle using a drawing application, and you can blow it up by 200 times, and it still looks like a circle, very smooth lines and so on. So this is why you want to create logos using a drawing application and not using Paint or any one of those photo editing software. Yep.
Are we talking like Illustrator versus Photoshop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Illustrator would be a drawing application, and then Photoshop is an image editing software. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's
Go
kind of
ahead.
how it is, like in AutoCAD. We explode it,
Mhm.
it blows it up, like however.
And it's still smooth.
Yep.
Yep.
Everything's all perfect. And
Yep. AutoCAD is kind of like an extreme example of what a drawing application is. It's kind of like a
no, I'm just saying
souped-up
how you
version
say
of that.
blow it up.
Right.
Well,
To magnify.
Yeah.
To zoom
so
in.
like we explode ours when we.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Software? What kind of software is that? The Browning? What's it called? What brand is that? Can you get?
With drawing applications?
Yeah, the drawing part.
Okay, the
What
drawing
program is it?
Um,
Microsoft's the only one that has it?
But in Microsoft Office, it comes with a application that you can use for drawing. But if you really need to do actual drawing, you can use Adobe Illustrator or Inkscape as an open source program.
Inkscape is great.
Yeah, Inkscape. I can actually illustrate Inkscape right now. I got everything installed on my little thumb drive, so I can go to graphics, go to Inkscape. And by the way, a lot of these programs that I'm using, that I'm illustrating in this class, they're called open source software. You can actually install these. You can download and install for free.
Where?
I'll show you guys. Okay, so let me just kind of illustrate what this one looks like. So I can use a zoom tool to zoom into a portion of the entire paper. I have a pencil tool here. With a pencil tool, and a stylus, you can do freehand, kind of drawing. So you can say, I can just write down tag here. It's not really good to use a mouse for this purpose, but it's close enough. Okay, I don't think it's too bad. You can also use these other tools. You can use a circle tool to draw a circle. Now this is what I'm talking about when I said you can zoom in a lot without losing the details. So I'll just use a zoom tool here, and I'll just be focusing on this one tiny little bit of a circle. Look at that. It is smooth because the program is not remembering a circle as individual pixels. It is remembering a circle, where is the center of the circle, what is the radius of the circle, what is the color of the inside, and how thick is the line that is surrounding the circle. That's how it is represented, and that's why when I zoom in as much as I cannot lose detail because it is just drawn depending on the resolution and the zoom ratio.
So you can change the outside is set up to be brown. You can change the color
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
absolutely. To do that, you just do a right click, and then you go to fill and stroke. The fill refers to the inside of it, and there are different models to select your color. You can use a RGB method, which indicates red, green, and blue. And A is the alpha channel, which controls the transparency. So you can actually dial in the transparency in a different level. If you have objects behind the circle, then you're actually controlling the transparency of this object and actually see things behind it. If you want to change the color, let me bump this up back to the maximum. You can use the HSL model, which is hue, saturation, and luminance model. CYMK, which is for publishing, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And also use a color wheel. So the color wheel is kind of more intuitive. You just kind of change the color wheel to the place where you want it. Let's say I want brown color. Okay, so brown is kind of like an orange, except the saturation is lower and the intensity is lower. So that's you have all these different tools to select the color, and not only that, you can also use gradient. Different types of gradient. You can go to stroke paint. You can also do the same thing with the paint color. So you can use a different paint color. So I can use, let's say, a blue paint. I can go to stroke style, and I can change the thickness of the stroke. So I can make it twice as thick. I can make it thinner. Okay, 0.5. I can make it dotted. Okay, so I can go to dashes and make it dotted. So lots and lots of options you can play with. You can also have arrows at the end of lines if you want to. Pretty nifty tool, and I would say it's fairly intuitive to use as well.
Is this something that's available on Apple as well?
I believe so. Inkscape is an open source program, and most open source programs are available for all platforms. So you can use it on the Linux, you can use it on, you know what? Next thing is I want to show you where to find it. So we'll go to, sorry?
Is it portable?
Yeah. So we look for Inkscape. The name is Inkscape. And then you go to inkscape.org, which is the home page of this particular application. And then you go to download. Yes, Mac OS X is supported.
And it's free?
And it's free. It's 100% free. Yep, go ahead.
Isn't Mac at like 10.8 or 10.9 right now?
I think, if it works for 10.6, it's probably upward compatible. Did Apple do something that makes it incompatible, that would make applications for 10.6 not compatible for 10.8?
I only say that because I was installing, there was some driver issues with one of my friend's Macs.
Okay.
And it was because it was too high of an operating system rather than.
Oh, okay. Well, drivers is a separate issue. Remember when we talked
Yeah.
about software drivers? If the operating system changes the way it talks to the software drivers, that can cause issues when you upgrade the operating system. Some of the device drivers will stop working. But applications typically are upward compatible. So if your application is designed for an earlier version of the operating system, it typically will work just fine as you upgrade your operating system, not the other way around. Yep, go ahead.
Anytime you create an open source program, you're not intending to make no money off it, right?
They're not making money from licensing the software. They still may be making money from somewhere else.
Like how?
Like when you use let's say MySQL or a database program. So the program itself is free. You can download and install it as many times or wherever you want to do it. But if you want someone to support it, to support your database, you still have to pay someone to do it. So the developers, may be getting paid for the maintenance or the repairing of your database and services. Services would still cost money. Yep.
They can still do consulting.
They can still, yep, exactly. Consulting of any kind can
So
still
they're
cost
paying for,
money.
like updates and all that stuff like that, or what?
Sorry?
They're paying for like updates.
A base?
Updates.
Updates? No, updates are free. Yep.
There's a donate link on the website.
Yeah, most people don't. I'm really sad to say that most people don't donate. I do. Whenever I can. Like Wikipedia. I paid a little bit for that. I donate money to Wikipedia. This is also their home site. If you want to find out how to do something, go to their documentation. If you want to find out what kind of fancy stuff you can do with Inkscape, go to Showcase. This is all done by Inkscape. All of these, designs, they're all done by Inkscape. You can use Inkscape to do kind of like a CD booklet. I actually did it with one of my friends.
So that would be perfect for web designing.
You can, you have to be careful because Inkscape, Inkscape can export to IMG, to image files. So once you're happy with the design and you say, okay, with this particular website, I really only need 800 by 600 resolution. You can actually output the raster image in a PNG or whatever JPEG or whatever format you want to use.
I usually do Inkscape and then I export to Photoshop to
Yep.
refine it.
Yep. So yes, for web design, can be very helpful too. Inkscape outputs SVG, which stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. Some of the browsers can display SVG natively, like Firefox and Chrome both can do it. Internet Explorer, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really tested that lately. But at any rate, it's a very interesting program. It's very helpful. It's really useful, and it's free. I mean, you cannot beat that. I mean, if you don't find it useful, just uninstall it. I don't think anyone can complain.